Hi everybody, welcome to my latest video. In this video I'm going to be talking about what bottom-up thinking is from my perspective when it comes to autism. Now, as you probably all know, if you've watched my first few videos, I am neurodiverse. I've got dyslexia and dyspraxia. I have been diagnosed by third parties of being autistic and having ADHD, and I'm awaiting NHS validation of all this. Not that apparently it matters whatsoever, because once they say, yeah, you've got autism, it's just a case of off you go, do your best, especially when you get diagnosed later in life like I am. But I wanted to talk to you about a type of thinking that I've done my entire life. And I know other autistic people that I've met do as well, which means that we don't process the world in the same way that the vast majority of people do, and that is bottom-up thinking. Now, I talked about this in my previous video briefly, and basically the idea is that most people in society have developed the thinking style of what's called top-down thinking. So what is top-down thinking? Well, top-down thinking is when we are able to generalize a situation or just remember as well that I'm not great at making eye contact with the camera, never mind people. So if you see me constantly looking away and everything like that, I don't know if my iPhone sort of like changes it. But anyway, just to warn you. So anyway, yeah, most people think top down. They generalize, they do from a key concept high up and then filter that information down. So they for example, I find it very difficult to go into restaurants or busy places. I do. So a person who is neurotypical, for example, my partner, she will go into a restaurant and she will assume that she will think that basically she's been to another restaurant before, and therefore this restaurant that she's going into now will have 90% of the traits that the other restaurants she has been to have. So, for example, it will have lots of tables, there'll be lots of chairs, there'll be open spaces, more confined spaces, booths, food will be served like burgers, steaks, check-in, there'll be a toilet, there'll be an exit, maybe multiple exits, there'll be a bar, and there'll be a place where you get served or people come up to you so you can get served. So there's this general idea of what a restaurant is before you go to it. And then she will walk into the restaurant knowing this, assuming all of this, and will then filter down from there by adding new details, usually by chunking, she will. So, for example, she will look at the place. Instead of looking at the details immediately, she'll start taking in the general structure of it. And she will note how that general structure differs from her generalized view of restaurants, her top-down idea of restaurants. And then she will look at the structure and she will start to think, oh, there's steps there, or oh, right, it's a left by here to the toilet instead of a right in other restaurants, or and so on and so forth. And there'll be thousands of variables, and this will happen in a very short period of time. So you will, from what she's told me, remember, I don't think like this, she will essentially look at the entire idea like a pyramid, starting from the top, and she will, like a tree trunk, the individual roots going off to greater and greater detail until she's used her generalized top-down model to create a model of this area. It means that she can very quickly become comfortable in a place, because most places agree with 90%, 95% of a model. There'll only be slight changes in layout slight changes in people. And this can be applied across anywhere. So you have you get one job, and then you take that model and you assume that other jobs are going to be 90% the same. And that is very advantageous in the modern world, because it means that you can very quickly move into different areas in life without having to essentially remake your experience every single time. Now, looking at bottom-up thinking, this is how I think. And I think that bottom-up thinking is an incredible way of thinking, but it is exhausting and it is tiring, especially in a modern world. So with bottom-up thinking, this is my experience of it, my take on it, which seems to resonate with other people who have got autism and things like that. Essentially, I do not have a very good general view of anything. So, for example, with a restaurant, I have been to restaurants in the past and I have an idea of what they are like, but my ability to generalize is very limited. I can go to one restaurant down the road, which is 100 yards from me, and then I can go to another restaurant in 200-300 yards from my house. And if I've never been there before, I will feel anxiety about going there. Now, my partner won't. And I've always wondered why is that? And the general reason is that is bottom-up thinking, is that I am unable to generalize restaurants. And it's the same with everything. Football grounds, football games, I can't generalize from one game to another. So, for example, with a football game, I might go down and watch my local football team play, and then next time I'm going to go, I will still feel very anxious because I've got to create a bottom up, because I'm thinking bottom up again. My brain doesn't assume that this game will be 99% the same as the next game. I'll walk down there, buy tickets, go in, maybe buy a pint of lager or something like that, stand behind the goal, watch the game. My brain cannot think like that. Not easily anyway. And even if I force myself to think like that, to generalize, I get anxiety and I start to panic because my brain thinks that, well, no, if you start generalizing, you're going to be in danger because you're going to miss something that's dangerous. I know I'm going on, but we're up to 8 minutes now. But basically, generalization works in the modern world because we are capable of assuming that we are in a safe environment. And we are in a safe environment. We've never been in a safer environment in the United Kingdom or in most parts of the world, thank goodness. But my brain, and this is what I believe, again, I'm not a psychologist, I do all this based on experiential living. I believe that bottom-up thinking was advantageous for animals, for when we lived in caves 200,000 years ago. The idea basically is that generalized thinking would get you killed in the past because no two caves are the same. If you just assumed that every cave was the same, you would essentially you could go into a new cave and you would assume that, yeah, this is the same as the last cave, and then suddenly a bear would come out and kill you. So you had to go into every cave assuming that this is completely new. I need to be vigilant, I need to be aware, I'm anxious, and that adrenaline that is being released by that anxiety is going to keep me alive because I have no idea if this is going to be my next home or if this is going to be a house of horrors. So the thing is that neurotypical people are able to now not think like that. If you've been into one cave, you can go into another cave and you'll assume that most of it is the same. But I don't. And I think that's what is so difficult for autistic people, is the fact that we think from the bottom up. And because we absorb so much information to create that bottom-up view, that it is exhausting. And a large amount of us are in a constant state of, myself definitely, and others I've met, are in a constant state of anxiety, especially in new situations. Like you with autistic people, you must have felt this before yourself, where somebody will say, right, we're going to go out for a meal. And that's anxiety inducing enough, it is, because you meet new people, and again, you've got to build your model from the bottom. Then they suddenly say, oh, change of plans, we're going to here. And it's the day before. And all of a sudden your brain is like, boomf, oh my gosh, we're going to a completely new place. I've never been there before. I don't know what it's like. That means people are going to be different. There's going to be people there I don't know. There's going to be staff. There's going to be food. Everything is different. This massive bundle of change, not massive from my point of view, not massive from a neurotypical person's point of view, but massive from my point of view. All of these things are suddenly changed, and they're all unknowns. I'm not able to generalize and say, well, people will be the same regardless of the restaurant they go to. The restaurant will be the same, the toilet will be there, I'm obsessed with toilets. Don't ask why. I've got to know where all the toilets are wherever I go. I'm obsessed. And the exits as well. I've got to know where all the exits are. But that is constantly anxiety inducing, and our world is not built for that way of thinking. Going back to the restaurant, with bottom up thinking, you are, it's sorry, I'm making sure my screen is still on and working. To constantly build your model of the world from the bottom up in a world that has thousands upon thousands of variables constantly at your going into your brain. I personally believe it's why I need to wear noise cancelling headphones. Why I find the world is so much easier when I wear noise cancelling headphones. That ability to just close off that information because I'm not able to stop it. That constant influx of data that I don't easily process because my brain is thinking from the bottom up. I walk down the street and I walked down there yesterday and it was different from the day before. And I walked down there today and it's different from yesterday and the day before, and so on and so on. Whereas my partner can walk down the street and it's a street, it's full of cars, people, there's houses, there's birds, everything like that. But to me, it's new. To me, I've got to build my model up again. To me, I'm seeing all new details. There's a vase in a window that I've never seen before. There's a new weed that I didn't notice. Perhaps a flower has burst out. Perhaps there's a person driving a car. All the cars have been parked differently. Instead of being parked orderly down the street, all the cars are parked in different organizations and in different orders. And then I've got to create my model again around that, around the fact that everything is different. Now, I see somebody walking towards me. There's a dog. I love dogs. Dogs are easy to understand. A person and a dog walking towards me. I've never seen this person or this dog before. That is all new data to me. All new data. It's not just. It's not. I'm not able to just assume it's a person with a dog. It's like, oh my God, I've never met this person before. I've never met this dog before. I'll say hello to the dog, and I might say hello to the person. A lot of the time, I forget. But it is exhausting. It's exhausting, and it never stops. You never get used to most things, or at least it takes a long time for you to get used to most things. For example, something I've always found difficult is making friends. It's an autistic thing because of masking and things like that. But I also think it's because of bottom-up thinking. It takes us a long time to generalize. We need so much data inputted into our system that we need to, it can take me years before I will consider somebody I've met to be a friend, because I know that even when I've talked to somebody for years and years and years, I don't really know them. And you can say that about anybody. I know the vast majority of people will take people at face value, but it's not something easy for an autistic person to do. I will look at somebody, and after 3 years, I will still not fully trust them because they don't live with me. I don't know them fully. And so it takes me a long time to build up a mental model of somebody where I can say, yes, I trust this person enough to call them a friend. And I have found that bottom-up thinking means that this process takes a long time. And I have never found a system or a way to be able to shortcut this, to be able to just go, okay, how can I get my mind to think downwards? And like I said, it never really feels like I am, it never really feels like I'm able to, even though I can try, even though I can consciously make myself try to do it, I feel extremely anxious doing it. It's almost as if my brain knows that I'm trying to override the side of itself that is trying to keep me alive. It's crazy. It is. It really is. Trying to make sense of all this is just, it often feels almost impossible. It is, like I said, it is so tiring. I wish that there was I wouldn't want to change. I love who I am. I'm happy with who I am. I just think that I wish there was a way of being less anxious about situations like this. So I know this video hasn't exactly been a how-to or actionable for you, and I apologize for that. This is one of my earliest YouTube videos, and if I ever carry this on, if I don't go over to TikTok instead or something like that, I don't know. Maybe this is a way of, before I start opening up, because it's trying to talk about autism to people who don't have autism is extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult, and it goes both ways. How could they understand how I think when I find it so difficult to understand how they think? How can I don't understand how people can generalize so much. And God, let's be honest, if you're sat there and you're autistic, you probably understand where I'm coming from. It takes all my energy, like I said, to look into the camera. It takes all my energy not to have my fidgets by here and everything like that, so I can keep my hands busy. There's just so many things that are difficult to work with in regards to this. Like, I find work extremely difficult. I won't go into it now with this video, because I just want to talk and learn more about myself through this process before pushing forward with everything. And I hope that if anybody ever sees these, once I start creating more structured videos that are more about helping people instead of helping myself, I hope people can see that my authenticity was there from the beginning. Like, I really struggle with trying to figure out who to actually help when it comes to my life. I find that autistic people are very much the same, is trying to find meaning. We try to find meaning in our lives. Like, I see other people, and they're plumbers and they're electricians, and they seem to just happily get on with their existences, whereas I struggle constantly to try and find meaning, trying to find not just meaning but purpose. And it's almost like I wake up and I go through this entire process daily. And again, part of bottom-up thinking. But I think that the point of these videos is that I'm starting to realize that helping people who think like me is the answer. I did a video about how to find your purpose, and because I'm autistic, I tend to think more in objects and items and things than people. I can get very upset if items break, whereas, for example, my father, who's not autistic, can be very relaxed about it. For me, it can be deeply upsetting. I can be very object orientated, very non-person orientated. I find it difficult. I used to find it very difficult to understand how people find motivation to help other people, how they do work, and it seems like the most random work, and yet they find a reason, they find meaning in it. They do, just because they're helping random people, and I just don't think like that at all. And I think that with my work in the past, I always used to think in, like I said, in objects. So I would think to myself, okay, I would think, I'm going to help startups. I'm going to help startups. Or I'm going to sell cars. Or I'm going to make a game. Or I'm going to write a book to help people increase productivity. And it wasn't until recently I realized that is completely the wrong way around it. And it's taken me 40 years. All right, not 40 years. I wasn't aware for the first 10 years. It's taken me a long time to realize that I do not think like a neurotypical person. I do not think in people first. So this has been very hard for me to learn. And thinking that when it comes to creating things, when it comes to doing things, when it comes to life, it's about picking a person to help, not a product area to work in or a business area to work in. For example, I want to, a good example would be, instead of thinking, I want to build, productivity homepages in Notion, or Trello or whatever. I think to myself, the proper way to do it is to think, I want to help autistic adults find a productivity that suits their unique way of thinking. That becomes person-centric. You're helping a specific type of person, autistic people who want to improve their productivity. I want to help autistic people improve their productivity. Or you look at a group of people, like, I want to help startups who struggle with their startup strategy. I want to help people. I want to help startup founders. Sorry, there's me doing it again automatically. I'm thinking in startups. I want to think. Because when I was having a conversation about this the other day, and I was thinking that when you think in products, when you think in things, you forget that you're not marketing to a thing. You're not trying to sell this thing. If I say I want to help startups grow, you can't talk to a startup. A startup doesn't exist outside of what our minds say it does. Without the human mind, there is no startup. There is nothing. There might be a piece of paper once saying that there was a startup, but without people, there's nothing. And what I should be doing instead is, instead of focusing on I want to help startups, it should be the person. I want to help this specific person. I want to help startup founders. I want to help people who want to escape the 9 to 5. I want to help people who are creating lifestyle businesses. I want to help car sales representatives. I want to help monitor designers. I want to help game level designers. And then you niche down from there. You pick a specific person and then you niche down to a specific problem they have. And then once you fix that problem, you find another problem they have. But you niche down on the person. Sorry, I'm getting... But being autistic means that I don't think like that. I have to force myself to think person-centric instead of object-centric. Anyway, I've rabbited on for 26 minutes we're coming up to now. And I've gone off on a tangent. I've got to admit that. I've gone off on a tangent. And that plays on my mind. But you can see that I am starting to get there. And I will get there. I am determined to get there. I have, like I said, many different things that run in my family, and I will somehow make the best of this and help other people make the best of this. And I think that I need to move past the limiting belief, which is what it is. It's a limiting belief around the idea that I need to be a psychologist or a counselor in order to help people who are autistic. And that is a lie that I tell myself because I'm afraid. I can make a difference to myself and to people who are neurodivergent. I'm not sure if that's the right word at the moment. Sometimes I get them mixed up. I'm not great with getting them right. But I think I can make a difference. And I want to make a difference to this group of people because it is my group of people. You are my tribe. And I love you all. And I want to be there to help you. I may not be perfect every single time because, Jesus, I'm really not. I get scared and I get worried and I get anxious and I get panicky because of decades of masking my true self, because of feeling like that my true self isn't good enough or that my true self won't be accepted, and all the anxiety. And I don't think I've ever had depression, but definitely feeling down sometimes. That comes with that masking because you feel as if the person you are will never be accepted. And I want to help in some way, even if it's just a small way. I want to help. And I really appreciate you watching. And I know the first 3 videos I've put up have had a grand total of 2 at this point views. But one of those is me. The other one is probably my partner. And she just hasn't told me. But if one person watches these videos and you get something out of it, please get in touch with me. I've had enough of being in a vacuum. I've had enough of working within a system that doesn't suit me and trying to constantly fight against myself to fit within that system. I want to help you. I want to help myself. I want to help us as a group of people. And again, I'm not too sure if this is the path for me. I've always struggled with that, as I know you have and many other people have. But my hope is that these vlogs will allow me to push forward to the point where I will eventually be able to actually help people and make a difference to people. Anyway, We're coming up on half an hour now, and if anybody makes it this far, good effort. Get in touch with me. I'll give you a free hour consulting on whatever business stuff you want to know about. Give me a shout. Well, not if the video is like, more than a couple of weeks old. Otherwise, I'll be in. You never know. I might be inundated in the future with millions of people asking me. You never know, dear. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. And come on, we can do this. We're gonna do this together. Have a great day. Bye.